Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Georgia Sports Nation. We got some more Hawks and more Braves content today, especially with the regular season right around the corner starting next week. So, hope you guys are ready and excited for some Braves baseball to start up, and we'll be able to really speak on recap a game next week for the Braves. So, really looking forward to that. In today's episode, we'll be recapping the 129-107 win against the Pistons. They are the Pistons, but with the Hawks, how well they played offensively and defensively, both sides. There's a lot to look at there. We'll be recapping the loss to the Timberwolves, just a heartbreaking loss, 125-124, and we'll be going over some plays down the end that were referenced in the last 2 minutes report by the NBA that were some wrong calls, and really 4 out of the 5 benefited the Timberwolves. And the Hawks, while they definitely could have played better, turnovers were really bad, and they did have an 11-point lead with 8 minutes left. This game was winnable. We're also going to be previewing the Hawks-Pacers tomorrow. Hawks will be on the road in Indiana, and at the end of the show, we'll be talking about the Braves, including the shortstop opening day decision, our most encouraging signs from players this spring, and talking about the unfortunate case of Rice and Iglesias having to start the season on the IL, what that means for the Braves bullpen, the closing position, all that good stuff. So without further ado, we'll get into it. We have Big Ant with us tonight. We'll start off with the Hawks against the Pistons. What did you see? What did you see from the Hawks there against the Pistons? But what did you like specifically that the Hawks played both sides of the floor?
They were on defense. It was pressure all night long. Like the Pistons could not gain the rhythm at all on offense, whether it was in the first half or the second half. And then on offense, we were sharing the ball, and the ball wasn't sticking to one side of the court, and we were trying to find the open person. With that comes making the extra pass, and that was happening all night long.
Yeah, I agree with that. 26 assists on the night for the Hawks. Definitely some great ball movement, like you said there. And the second half was really when the Hawks turned up their defense. They allowed 32 points in the opening quarter and 27 in the second. So, a rough start defensively. But in the third quarter, I mean, we really got to them because they only scored 19 points in that third quarter.
Exactly.
We were really able to stifle them defensively in the second half. And those third quarters are really important because when you come out of halftime, you establish yourself. If you are listening to the game plan that the coach makes at halftime, and it's sure enough, it really looks like the Hawks accomplished that coming out of the break.
Yeah, I agree. And it was the game right before that one. It was the exact opposite of what happened. Like we came out in that third quarter and we looked like complete crap,
Yeah, we did.
and we ended up losing that game. And then we come out against Detroit, and we look like world beaters in that third quarter. And then
Yeah,
to,
and even to a team like the Pistons, allowing just 19 points in a quarter is huge.
yeah,
And yeah, it's outside, like you're saying. A lot of people won't really care about what happened last game, but it was still a solid bounce back win. And that's really how you got to look at it. Like we all know that the Hawks just played the most abysmal basketball in that second half and against the Spurs that you could ever see. I mean, we went 6 minutes without scoring a bucket, or not even a bucket, scoring a point, not even at the free throw line. So to bounce back and have a good offensive start against the Pistons, as well as a defensive start and to the third quarter, was still a good sign. Another great sign for the Hawks lately has been John Collins. Why I say that is, while JC we know has not been the greatest rebounder as of late, his 3-point shot is getting back. We've seen him knock down close down to 40% from these last few games, and he went 2 for 5 here from 3. What does that give us when JC can get back to that low to mid 30s of 3-point shot? That gives us more defense because when JC has his 3-point shot going, it means less minutes for Saddiq Bey at the 4. And Saddiq Bey, while he's a better offensive player than John Collins, JC is an otherworldly defender compared to Sadiq Bey.
Yeah.
So it's huge for John Collins to get that 3-point shot confidence back.
Yeah, I will agree that John Collins is leaps and bounds better defender than Sadiq Bey.
Yeah.
That that stretches the floor out, and and it gives Clint more room to operate down low.
Oh yeah, huge. Yeah, it gives him more space for the pick and roll. Also, the
Yep,
lob from Clint Capella to John Collins, like we've seen them run multiple times this year. So it just helps our offense completely overall.
it does. What's going on, Maggie?
We've got in this game we had Trae Young just go berserk, 30 points on 12 assists. And while we're kind of used to 30-point 10 assist games from Trae, it was the efficiency that was a little bit of a problem in this game. We know that Trae Young hasn't had the greatest shooting year this year, but when he has games like 30 and 12 on 7 of 19 shots, he's able to impact the games in other ways. And that was at the free throw line. 13 and 15 at the line, which is huge for the Hawks. We had 7 guys in double digits, including Sadiq Bey, who really hit his former team there with the double-double. He had 11 rebounds off the bench and 14 points. So huge game, revenge game, if you want to call it, for Sadiq Bey. So that was really encouraging to see as well.
Yeah, he lit his old team up. He was on fire just like that. His first game with us, like he was on fire that whole night.
Yeah. And basically, I wanted to just get an exact stat on this John Collins game because so I looked up his 3-point percentage the last 8 games. He's got a 36.4 3-point percentage in his last 8 games. That's pretty much where he's been his whole career. So if we can get that going, our offense is going to improve already, which has been a top 5 offense since the All-Star break, since Quinn Snyder's got here. So that's a great sign. We just, like we always say, we need to be better on defense, the point of attack especially. And while DeJounte Murray's not the greatest point of attack defender, he didn't play in this game, so we started a lineup of Trae, Bogey, Collins, Dre, Capella, and against the Timberwolves, it really hurt not having DeJounte, not having that secondary score next to Trae, especially in crunch time when Trae didn't really close the game out ideally as you want to.
Yes, that really hurt down the stretch because as you pointed out, Trae hasn't been he hasn't been efficient in scoring, and down the stretch we make these these boneheaded mistakes, turnovers. You try to throw the ball in and defender, gets in front of it, and if you have DJ in there, he can get any shot that he wants in that mid range, without a doubt.
The Pistons game, we shot 38 3-pointers. So that I'm happy with that volume. We hit 14 of them for 36.8%. So that was an encouraging sign. But unfortunately, in the Timberwolves game, which we'll go over after that, the 3-point shot really was not there. The volume was not there either. 12 of 26 from 3-point land in Minnesota, and that's just not going to cut it. A ton of twos. But as we'll go into that game a bit later. I want to bring up a couple more details from this Pistons game. Both teams really in the first half packed the paint. Both teams had 20 points in the paint at the end of the first half. But the Hawks really seemed to get their 3-point shot on in the second half. Especially we mentioned before how good of a game Sadiq Bey had.
Mm-hmm.
Sadiq, it was crucial in the second half of having a great game. I mean, and as well, Bogey in the second half, he at one point he had back-to-back threes. He hit three threes in the second half, in the third quarter alone, and he was really the catalyst in making a massive 14-0 run in the third quarter to really blow this game wide open. So Bogey and Sadiq Bey were really huge in the second half and catalyst for allowing the Hawks to, get their starters out with some time left, because the back-to-back against the Timberwolves was the next night. And regarding Sadiq Bey, he had 7 points and 6 rebounds in the fourth quarter alone, which led to that 14 and 11. So the second half shooters, I forget the killer bees, as Bob Rathman said on the broadcast, were really lightened up in that second half, and what that allowed us to pull away so much, to give the starters a rest, give Bruno, Fernando, Garrison Matthews, Vit Krejci, Aaron Holiday some more minutes in garbage time.
Yeah, I agree. We started spacing the floor more in that third quarter, and once Bogey finds his shot, there's nothing that you could do about it.
It's hard to get him out of his rhythm.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of it. He might go cold for maybe a quarter or quarter and a half, but he's lights out when he finds it.
Yeah.
And Sadiq, man, he's been something special added to this team.
Oh, really?
Not just for his shooting, but his rebounding, his playmaking. He's very smart. A smart basketball player.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with his rebounding at the 4 position as well. So that's been a huge addition to the bench, and as well as Okongwu who's been playing recently, he's dominating.
Yes.
And in this game, he didn't really have the greatest game. But as we move on here to the Timberwolves game, I mean, Onyeka Okongwu has just been playing out of his mind. He in the not in the Pistons game, in the Timberwolves game, 14 points, 3 blocks, added an assist and 7 rebounds, and shot 6 for 10 from the field in just 19 minutes of playing time. And that's why you see fans we know Onyeka is ready to start in the NBA now. This season, this stretch has proved it to me, and it's why a lot of people think Clint is going to be gone in the offseason or at the next trade deadline. And I do think it's still possible. But Hawks fans got to enjoy the 48 minutes of elite center play that we have right now, because Onyeka, best big man off the bench in the league. And when you've Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu for 48 minutes, you can be sure that your defense is going to be anchored well.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah. Which is I like how he's coming along, developing. I like that Matthews kid, man. I can't wait to see what he's going to look like next year.
Yeah, Garrison Matthews, if you're not familiar with him, he's a lot like Kyle Korver, Kyle Korver light, if you will. He's definitely not the shooter that Kyle Korver is, not the player that Kyle Korver was. But with the way that Southside saying, he garners attention from the defense, because they never want him to get up a shot on the 3-point line, because he'll take those moving fadeaway threes, those step back threes, and he'll drain them. The defense is so focused on him whenever it's on the floor, and he's able to find other people as well off that pass, similar to what Kyle did really well when he was playing with the Hawks. So really, really great sign that Garrison Matthews is getting some minutes here. It is at the expense that Jalen Johnson is out. He got into the rotation a decent amount on was it Wednesday? No, Tuesday. No, it is Wednesday. Wednesday against the Timberwolves, but like Southside said, didn't get up many shots. Or 1 for 3, hit his only, and that was a 3-pointer. So, but regardless, it's good to see him get into the rotation. Jalen Johnson is still dealing with that. Hamstring. He's still day to day. We don't know if he's going to play again this regular season. Hopefully he will. He's going to be reevaluated within the next week, next few days actually, because they did say that like 4 or 5 days ago. So hopefully we'll get Jalen Johnson back. But in his replacement, AJ Griffin has done a good job. He didn't really have. He's not had a solid opportunity in like probably I want to say 2 weeks since Quinn Snyder's really been here. It's been AJ or JJ, and he's really had Jalen Johnson be that 4 and passing, getting the ball up in transition off a rebound. But AJ's, I'm glad he stayed ready as a rookie, and that's what you want to ask from a young player, not sulking. Oh, I'm not going to get any more playing time, but he's been ready, and he's been ready to fill that void because JJ is not available, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. He weathered the storm when he went through that. I say a couple month drought, and he wasn't hitting shots and he was barely getting any playing time as well. But when they called upon him, he showed up, and he's been showing up these last few games.
Yeah, and I want to bring up this point by Antonio Starks. JC is hurting the starting lineup. I can see your point if you're saying shooting overall this season, but what I would say to that is, who would you start in his position, in his place? Would you start Saddiq Bey, who would make the defense already worse than it is? Or I don't really know what the solution is if you want to remove him to the starting lineup. What are your thoughts on that, Ant?
I mean, right now, okay, let's look at our options, off the bench. Well, he said he would start JJ. Yeah. Well, JJ is hurt right now.
He's hurt right now,
and he's still young.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that yet.
Maybe later on next year, like towards the middle of the season, I would try to implement him in the starting lineup, but it's too early for that. And then, as much flack as me and Blackberry gave JC, he is our best option right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
and he's been playing well recently, offensively.
Yeah.
So I mean, when John Collins has his 3-point shot, I don't think he holds the starting lineup back at all. And if it's the defense you're worried about, he's our best defender out of DeAndre Hunter. If you play DeAndre Hunter at the 4, JC is a better defender than Hunter is at the 4. But Hunter obviously is a better defender overall than JC. Of
course.
But if you played Saddiq Bey there, it just worsens the defense. So I think I definitely think that JC is going to be there for this entire season, and probably, like you were saying, at the beginning of next season. I don't think it will be till late next season that we possibly see Jalen Johnson inserted in that starting lineup. But it could be wrong. We could trade Jalen Johnson, and they'll say, "Okay, JJ, you're the guy." But they also could go with Saddiq Bey and DeAndre Hunter in his place if we do trade JC this offseason or before next deadline. So there are options. It's a good problem to have this many options. So
yeah.
When you say here the Hawks have no energy on defense, we've definitely seen some quarters and lapses where we've had no energy on defense. Our point of attack defense is one of the worst in the league, which is honestly shocking because we have a great guy like DeAndre Hunter, who's an elite perimeter defender on the wing. But it's really been the guard defending that's been bad. And we know while Trae Young's had a better defensive year and has been playing good defense for him over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, it's still not the greatest. And DeJounte has not been the all-ball defender that we thought. So that's why our point of attack defense has been pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. Clint definitely needs help in the post. That's why a lot of our bigs get in foul trouble a lot, because they're constantly having to deal with guys penetrating the paint.
Yeah, they're having to overcompensate for what's missing with our guard, guard on ball defend. Like it's atrocious.
Yeah. And that foul trouble happened in the Minnesota game. I mean, John Collins with 5 fouls, DeAndre Hunter 5 fouls, Onyeka Okongwu in just 19 minutes. Even though he did have that 14 and 7 and 3 blocks, he also had 5 personal fouls. So the foul trouble was definitely hurting us. But in this Minnesota game, I want to bring up the performance of Trae Young, because you can look at the box score and say, okay, he had 29 and 8. He didn't shoot well, shot 14 of 16 from the line. So like I said, 2 games in a row where Trae hasn't shot the ball efficiently. He shot the ball efficiently from 3-point range, 3 or 4, but 6 of 16 from the field. But similar to the Pistons game, you got Trae shooting an efficient 14 of 16 and good volume from the line. So he impacts the game in that area. But that 29 and 8 included 6 turnovers. And it really wasn't a dominant game from Trae Young if you just watch the entire game. He started off really well. It was some of my 11 points in the first quarter, I believe, from Trae. So he started off really well, but that shot didn't go down after that, and the turnovers were pretty costly down the stretch.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, especially in that fourth quarter. It's inexcusable, man. Like, especially down the stretch when you have the game in hand. I think we was up by, I think it was 111, 101. You come down the floor and you throw the ball away. Like, unforced error. Like, you cannot do that. Like, we have to, it's just like what we've been talking about this whole time. Like, we have to be smarter in what we're doing, especially in down, crunch situations and down the stretch.
Man, like Antonio was saying here, our bench really brought the lead up to 11 with 8 minutes left. And after a couple more minutes of that, we brought our starters back in with 6 minutes left, and then they kind of threw the game away, to be honest.
Right.
And and I'm gonna preface this by saying the refs were really bad in this game, horrible. In the fourth quarter, we're going to look at 2 plays in a minute here, but we should not have put ourselves in that position to begin with, because, like Antonio was saying, we allowed 25 points in 6 minutes when the starters returned. We had an 11-point lead with 8 minutes left in this game. Yeah, and we threw the game away. It could have been a great win, but it was an unfortunate, heartbreaking loss. But I'll start. The first play I want to check out is the play regarding Karl Anthony Towns and John Collins on that final drive of the game. I'll play it now.
It's Towns. 5 on the clock. Driving on Collins.
And you can see there clearly with the offhand that he hooks him with his left hand. So if you see, he brings the arm around here to keep John Collins on his backside. And they call a blocking foul on that on JC, which to me was just absurd. And it was a bad call. And they said that in the last 2 minute. They said that in the last 2 minute report too, which is it's just kind of funny in my opinion, because the last 2 minute report, I don't know about you, Ant, but to me, it just serves as like, well, yeah, you were right, but what are we going to do about it? Nothing.
Yeah, like, I mean, that means nothing. Like, what? How is that going to help us now? What we need y'all to do is hold yourselves accountable on the damn floor. Stop calling these. Look, excuse my French, but stop calling these dumbass fouls that aren't really fouls. You could see it was clear as day that he hooked them. I would love to see what they see, because obviously they're not seeing what we're seeing.
Yeah, I don't know how they didn't overturn it. And the Hawks obviously challenged that play, as Quinn Snyder should have done. But I guess it was maybe too close to call, but it really wasn't. Like,
it was
so. Yeah, that was an unfortunate play. But I saw a lot of fans and bashing the final play I really want to dive into the film room here a bit, because that final play, you got to give credit to the Wolves because they played excellent defense on this play. But here's essentially the situation, right? Hunter gets the ball in, and this play was for Sadiq Bey. And you also could have had Bogey. You also could have had Bogey on the far side. I'll play the video now and then analyze the situation from the screenshot.
Hunter to work it in. Collins gives it back to Hunter. Missed everything.
And there really was no
Hunter to work it in. Collins gives it. Hunter to work.
Between Bogey and Sadiq Bey, there really was no pass there. But that's not because it may have not been an effective play. It's because you got to give credit to the Timberwolves here, and this is why. Let me take this banner away. Okay, Kyle Anderson here sees that this pass can go to Sadiq Bey. He drops down from DeAndre Hunter to take away that pass, because you can't fit that pass in between Kyle Anderson and Rudy Gobert there, in that little area. They're going to steal that. If Kyle Anderson now takes that pass away, right? He says, okay, now let me take away the cross-court pass. He then follows back up to DeAndre Hunter to get in his face to make sure he can't make the cross-court pass to Bogey, because he was open for a split second there before Conley found him off the Trae screen. But first of all, DeAndre Hunter's not the greatest passer, so he probably wouldn't have seen that or made that pass. And second of all, that's a really tough pass. Kyle Anderson, 6'9", long wingspan. DeAndre Hunter is 6'8", and you're just not as tall, not as big as Kyle Anderson. So that would have been a tough pass to make. And then lastly, maybe you could get this to Trae, but Jaden McDaniels is an All-NBA defender. I think top 4 in the league, and he was all over Trae there defending him. So you got to give credit to the Timberwolves here, but Quinn Snyder said after the game, there were 3 options on this play. He mentioned Sadiq, he mentioned Bogey, but give a lot of credit to Kyle Anderson especially, but really the Wolves in general for playing great defense on this final play of the game. What were your thoughts live as that play happened, and then after you analyzed it, did it change at all?
You know what? It wasn't as bad of a play as people are making out to be. It just, we have to give credit where credit is due. Kyle Anderson is a elite defender. He is lengthy. He took away both passes that could have been there, and we had to take what was there. And I mean, I don't think that's not the what lost us the game. I mean, yeah, we could have had a better shot, but that's not, I mean, it was plays way before that, even before that last play that lost us the game.
Agreed, 100%.
That just but.
And if I play the video at the end, keep an eye on, once this shot goes down, keep an eye on Sadiq Bey and Taurean Prince, because this was in the last 2-minute reports as well. You can see clearly that Taurean Prince makes contact with Sadiq Bey, pushes him down, but there's no call. If that would have been called, you're looking at 2 free throws for Sadiq Bey, and this game is turned on its head probably. But I'll play it for you. Keep an eye after the shot goes up in the far rebounding area on Sadiq Bey and Taurean Prince.
Hunter to work it in.
Well, look, you can see Taurean. Look, when Sadiq Bey tries to tip that shot up, Taurean Prince backs into him and causes him to fall down.
Yeah,
that's clearly a foul. They mentioned it in the last 2-minute report, but like I mentioned before, the last 2-minute report's you're not going to change anything with it. And those last 2 calls, those last 2 plays were just brutal for the Hawks.
Yeah, really brutal. Like, it made it seem like what we've been talking about amongst ourselves, that the refs and the whole damn league is against us.
Yeah, agreed. For the Wolves, Jaden McDaniels actually had I'm pretty sure this is a career high for him with 25 points. But the guys who really hurt us were Taurean Prince and Naz Reid. Taurean Prince, even though he had 15 points, but off the bench in 28 minutes, and Naz Reid in 26 minutes had 26 points, and it was 11 of 15 from the field. Unfortunately, Torian was guarded by Bogey. He did a lot of that work on Bogey, but Naz Reid was guarded by Sadiq Bey a lot when he played the 4 with Rudy Gobert on the floor. And you just saw Naz Reid was able to drive by Sadiq Bey like he wasn't there. And unfortunately, that's what I'm talking about with the defense with Sadiq Bey. It's not the best. And we definitely have to have good point of attack defenders on the floor with Sadiq Bey. And that's just not what the Hawks have personnel-wise right now. Jalen Johnson is probably our second best point of attack defender on this roster after DeAndre Hunter. And unfortunately, he's injured. Maybe back to for another game this season, probably, but hopefully as soon as possible, because the Hawks have the second strongest strength of schedule left in the league, and we're going to need it because there is still a chance we get the 6th seed. It's not likely, but there is still a chance. The 7th seed is really what we need to do, though, because we'll be able to play Brooklyn most likely, or Toronto at home. And that home field advantage is huge in a 1-game series.
Yeah. I think
anything could go wrong or right in a 1-gamer.
I think outside of Golden State, we have one of the best home court advantages in the entire league.
Yeah.
Sadiq Bey, like, he was getting his food ate that whole time. Like, dude could drive in the paint and get whatever he wanted at any given moment. And yes, we do need on ball defenders when Sadiq is on the floor, but we also have to have off ball defenders while he's on the floor as well.
Yep. I want to go over this point about Tony Starks. I think JJ is perhaps the most versatile defender on the team. He can guard 1 through 4 pretty much. We've seen him on Bradley Beal. We saw him on Damian Lillard against the Trailblazers a couple weeks ago. But I think DeAndre Hunter is still overall the best defender on this team and a better defender than Jalen Johnson. But Jalen Johnson is a good defender. Don't get me wrong. Thoughts on that, Ant?
Oh, I definitely agree. DeAndre, he is the best defender on our team. Point blank, period. Hands down.
We've seen him lock up like Brandon Ingram. We've seen him lock up Klay Thompson, Jeremy Grant, countless guys. If you follow the account on Twitter called Dre's Dungeon by my good friend Tim on Twitter, I mean he puts people in the dungeon anytime Dre locks them up or they shoot really really inefficiently, and I think DeAndre Hunter has shown how his toughness on the defensive end. I wish he'd take a little bit more leap offensively, but defensively, we know he's going to be there every night, and he's going to really put it all out on the floor on the defensive end.
Exactly. That just goes right into what Southside is talking about. I love how Hunter is not afraid to put his head down and drive to the hole. I wish someone else was that. Cough, DJ.
Sometimes when he settles for those mid-range shots that are not going in, it can be a little bit frustrating when he doesn't go to the bucket. Because DJ is long. He's like 6'6", 6'7", the long wingspan. He can finish in that paint, but sometimes he settles for that mid-range a little too much, in my opinion, as well. That's a good point.
He does. He settles for that mid-range and that 3-point. Like, drive to the basket, man. Use your strength. Use your length to your advantage.
One thing about Jalen Johnson's defense, I will say, Antonio, is that his on-ball defense, while it's really good, the off-ball defense can really improve. He has all the tools physically to be a great off-ball defender. The size, the wingspan, the height, but it's just he just needs to be better at navigating some screens as well as just knowing when to gamble for steals and knowing when not to. DeJounte Murray's generally pretty good at that off-ball, but Jalen Johnson's off-ball defense is going to be – it leaves a little to be the desired still, in my opinion. A.J. Griffin's off-ball defense is great, but his on-ball defense compared to J.J.'s is nothing. So you have Jalen Johnson, which is basically a rookie. I mean, he didn't play last year, and then you have A.J. in a second year. Jalen Johnson, on-ball defense, excellent. Off-ball defense needs some work. A.J., on-ball defense needs some work. Off-ball defense, excellent. So it's kind of polar opposites there between our two young guys.
Yep. I would say what's going to next year, it's going to be telling if they worked on anything during the offseason.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because as what everybody knows, defense is pure effort. You have to put in the work.
100%. Any final thoughts here on the Timberwolves game before we move on to previewing the Pacers game tomorrow?
I mean, we could have won. We should have won.
Could have and should have.
Just like we've been saying all year, like as soon as we do this, let's fall off the cliff, and then
the Timberwolves. We scored 35 points in that third quarter, held them to 27, and after that, I thought we were back into this game, and we started the fourth quarter really well. But unfortunately, when the starters came in, they essentially just threw the game. They took the game away. It's kind of crazy because the bench was doing so well, and I know some people were on Quinn Snyder about why he took out the bench lineup, but that bench lineup was playing from the middle of the third quarter to mid through the fourth. Those guys are tired. You got to take them out at some point, and you pay starters that money to try and close games, and unfortunately, they just couldn't get it done.
Exactly. It's like they needed to go sit down, catch a breath. Now, if you wanted to bring them back in, a minute or a couple minutes after that, then okay, fine. But to leave them in there for the whole time, nah, I wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah. But as we move on tomorrow, we've seen the Pacers twice, and we know what we struggle with against the Pacers both times. Fast break points. Yes. These guys will run you out the gym and force turnovers. They're a young team. They love to run, and their paint penetration is really good with Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin. Chris Duarte has been playing good basketball for them. So and they got Jordan Nwora from the Bucks in a trade. Who he's playing well. He's playing good basketball for them after the deadline. So they've got some weapons. Tyrese Halliburton is questionable right now to play. He's coming off of missing the last 4 games for the Pistons. For the Pacers. But without Halliburton or with Halliburton, this team is going to play one way, going to play fast, and going to try and get into the paint. That is going to be the most important thing because that's a bad matchup for us. Our point of attack defense isn't that good, and these guys want to get into the paint. How do you think we can overcome that?
You know what? We're going to have to take some chances. Like, we have to get out of our comfort zone. Like, we got to try to get some steals. Like, we have to trap or, things like that. Out of the ordinary type stuff that, we don't usually do in order to, put a mask on what's been lacking this whole season.
Yeah. And I hope DeJounte Murray is available for this game because, like you were saying, if we are going to get off-ball steals, DeJounte Murray is elite at that. So we'll definitely need him for this game. And JC, the last time we got in Indiana, he did have that game-winning layup. So, or actually not layup, but a tip-in off the missed shot. So hopefully another moment like that. But a more comfortable win this time as well. I want to see Trae be a little bit more efficient. And I know he hasn't shot the ball well these past 2 games, but before these two games, he was playing really, really well. He was shooting the ball efficiently, and when he's not shooting the ball efficiently, he's making up for it at the free throw line. But hopefully, we can get an efficient Trae back because we know he can get to the line like almost nobody else in the league. There's if you add his efficiency on top of that, then you're looking at 40, 10 assist games on the regular. So I really want to see Trae shoot the ball better. And I don't think he's taking bad shots. The shots that he normally makes are not going in, but I do think one thing he could do is get into the paint with a little bit more purpose. Sometimes he goes into paint, and especially 3 weeks ago against the Wizards, we know how he closed the game. He got blocked like 4 times in the last like 7 possessions. Daniel Gafford. Sometimes he'll get into the paint with the game on the line and try and take that layup, but unfortunately, being 6'1" and how small Trae is, sometimes you got to look for that pass out. And I think down the stretch, that's one thing that Trae can look for more if we're going to close out games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he has to look for the extra pass. And his floater is unstoppable.
Yeah.
You have to look at, okay, you see a defender, you got your defender, and then you see a defender down low. Okay, let me not go all the way to the paint. Let me stop free throw line wide open. Just your jumper is unstoppable.
We saw that against Rudy Gobert in the first quarter against the Timberwolves. Rudy Gobert was playing drop coverage. He was all the way back. He was all the way back here, and Trae's just like, okay, right. mid range. I mean, Miles Turner plays a similar way. He doesn't want to leave that painted area. So if Trae and DeJounte Murray, if he plays, hopefully they're going to have that mid range available all night. So hopefully they can knock those down. And if they do, I think the Hawks will be put themselves in prime position to win tomorrow. What's your ultimate key to win the game tomorrow?
My key, I'm gonna need JC and Clint to play out of this world defense. Like it's going to be imperative. We have to keep them out of the paint. Like I don't care if you got to foul them or if somebody goes in there, you got to make them know that you're there.
Yeah.
Like we got to stop this. Got to stop pillow fighting in the paint. I mean, put some use this. Like we have to.
Yeah, for me, it's turnovers, limiting live ball turnovers, because the Pacers are one of those teams, like I said before, that are going to run you out of the gym. So if we can do that, we then limit the fast break opportunities for the Pacers to get into the paint. And goes back to your point, which JC and Clint have to play stellar defense if we do that. So the more we limit turnovers, the less fast break points they get, the less they get into the paint. Now, forgot what I was going to say, but if it comes back, I'll see how it goes. But anything that you want to say before we move on to some Braves talk here?
But look, Hops, we're begging you, please. Can we just get at least 3 wins in a row? Maybe. Like that's all we're asking. We're not asking you to do 9 in a row or however many games we got left. No, we're just asking you, at least 3 games. That's all we're asking.
Yeah, the Hawks are 26 games in a row now at 500, 1 game above 500 or 1 game below 500. That's an NBA record. Beating out the Pelicans. So it's a weird stat. It's a cool stat. But if you're a fan of the team, you're like, we're mid. that's all you can conclude from that stat. So
Yes.
hopefully we get, like you said, 3 wins in a row, really, to separate ourselves from being 500. But it is going to be tough because we don't have very many easy games left.
Yeah. But I mean, we're capable.
Yes.
We've seen it.
The talent level on this team is way better than they have played.
Exactly. They're
they're
not playing up to their potential.
Exactly. So it all starts with tomorrow, and then we also have a back-to-back on Sunday. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, this week is kind of hectic. So we have, we had the back-to-back against the Pistons and the Timberwolves. Now we have the back-to-back against the Pacers and Grizzlies the next day. So that's going to be a tough game. The Grizzlies are a great team. I honestly didn't think they'd take this much of a step forward, but they have. Desmond Bane's been really good, and John Morant is going to be back for that game, presumably.
Yeah,
so
he just came back. He came back, I think, a game or two ago.
Yeah,
so.
he came back, but he was on the bench and was on a minutes restriction. I do think by Sunday he will be in full force and be in that starting lineup playing his normal 30+ minutes. So it's going to be. Yeah. It's definitely going to be a tough game, and who knows? Maybe Dylan Brooks will get suspended for getting 2 more technical fouls before we play them. So that'll always be a good sign, hopefully. But I had to throw that in there. But yeah, hopefully Hawks can get both of these. It's going to be tough, but we definitely do want to get this Pacers win tomorrow because we know the Grizzlies game is going to be way tougher than the Pacers.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
As we move on to Braves talk here. They're starting to broadcast the final spring training games. So I did watch one of the games, and the one thing about the Braves that I'm noticing so far is just Jeff Francoeur really said on the broadcast so many times just how comfortable they look at the plate. He said it about Matt Olson. He said it about Ozzie. He said it about Marcelo Ozuna, who it's as we move on to a bit later in the show, he's my most encouraging sign this spring, Ozuna. And Eddie Rosario too. After the World Baseball Classic, he crushed it.
That's my guy. Yeah.
So it's great signs from a batting standpoint for the Braves. But the most shocking move in spring training camp has been when we sent Braden Shoemake and Vaughn Grissom both to believe one of the options as our to be in our starting lineup at shortstop on opening day. Mm-hmm. Both were sent to the minors, and now we're going to have Orlando Arcia starting at that shortstop position for opening day and probably for the first few weeks of the season. What were your thoughts, initial reactions on that, and just what the move overall is for the Braves? Why do you think they did it?
Well, you know what? I won't lie. I was kind of shocked when that they did it.
Yeah, I think
almost
all Braves fans were, to be honest.
Yeah. But if I'm going to be, fair, this is going to pay dividends for, later on down the line because they can get this work in now. Like early on in the season, everybody knows that, yes, you do need to get a fast start. But since there are so many games in the baseball season, early on in the season, it's not it's not as,
stressful.
Like just stressful where you have to have, no. Later on, like towards the middle of the season, pushing towards, August, September, October, that's when you start, formulating. That's going to be key, when they come back, not just right now.
I think it'll be. I think both of them will get a chance in the majors this year. I think we'll see both at bats and in the field, Vaughn Grissom and Braden Shoemake.
Yeah.
Me personally, I thought Shoemake was going to get the job over Grissom because of defense. And the way he was swinging the bat this spring, while it wasn't as good as Grissom, it was still good enough to where it was encouraging. But nonetheless, the Braves went with Orlando Arcia, who's no scrub. Like Orlando Arcia, for us last year was our best hitter off the bench, and before he went down with injury, he was our best player off the bench. I remember my favorite memory of Orlando Arcia last season was when he hit that 3-run homer off Shohei Ohtani against the Angels.
Yeah.
and he made it a 3-3 game in the bottom of the 7th inning. I remember that. That was a huge hit, and he's hit a home run spring training yesterday as well. So he's having a good spring, and everybody was acting like Vaughn Grissom and Braden Shoemaker were fighting for the job, but Orlando Arcia earned this job too. I don't think it was just handed to him. You know, he had to prove himself this spring as well, but he's probably in the middle of the defense between those two and the middle of the offense. So a little bit worse than Grissom on defense, a little bit better than Shoemaker on offense, but a little bit better on defense than Grissom, and a little bit worse on offense than Grissom. So I think it is a good sign that Ron Washington on the decision. He said, you know, these guys, they're going to compete, and it is a healthy relationship between them. You know, competing for the job, and it's not going to be like this guy's going to get it just because he did this in spring training or he did that last season. Yeah. It's going to be what you do this season, and they're good. Yeah. They're both going to play every day in spring training. Vaughn Grissom is going to be at second base. Braden Shoemaker going to be at shortstop, or they'll flip-flop. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But they're both going to play every day at AAA, which I think will just be huge for their development and confidence coming into the season, like you were saying.
Yes, I agree. It's going to pay dividends. I mean, we've seen it before. So, I mean, it's not, our farm system has been, is amazing. So we know that they're in good hands.
Yeah.
No matter what.
As we move on to our most encouraging sign this spring, I'll begin with you, Ann. What's yours? And I already said mine, but I'll go into a bit more depth on Ozuna. What's yours for this spring?
I like I said earlier.
Okay, yeah,
Eddie, because he finally got the eye surgery. He can actually see, everything, see the whole landscape, and he's actually looking like, he's seeing the whole landscape. He's just not seeing half, or a quarter or 3/4. He's back to being what he was when we won the championship a couple of seasons ago, and I can't wait to when the season begins to watch his defense. That's what I'm more. I already know what he can give on offense. I love watching his defense.
For me, the reason why it's been Ozuna is, and both of them competing for left field at bats. Well, you won't see Ozuna in the field. You'll see him at DH. But for me, Marcell Ozuna, I've said this multiple times. If he could just focus on the on the field stuff and just working hard, and that's what Snit has said. They were Brandon Gaudin and Jeff Francoeur were talking to Snit in an interview during the game in the dugout in the spring training game yesterday, and he was like, Snit was like, Marcel's worked so hard this offseason, and he's worked so hard this spring to get his swing right, to get in the right mindset, and I think that's huge. I mean, we're talking about a former All-Star, would have been MVP if it wasn't for his own teammate, Freddie Freeman, in 2020.
Right.
So we're talking about a guy that can't just fall off the face of the earth like he had these past 2 years with how much success he had before that. So I think fans that are ultimately preying on his downfall and hoping that he just never does well in his career again. I hope you're prepared to maybe have conflicted feelings this year, because I think he's in for a big year. He's crushed it this spring, over 300 average, slugging like 800. So he's always barreled balls, right? Even last year, he barreled the ball when he made contact, but when he made that contact was very few and far between. He had so many strikeouts, and he would hit some really hard balls, but they'd be pop-ups or hard ground balls. It wasn't really a great launch angle, but it looks like he's figured that out. He had 2 singles yesterday, really hard hit through the infield. So awesome to see that he's not only that home run guy, but also getting on base through singles through multiple ways. And I think that's why he's been my most encouraging sign. But an honorable mention for me has been Matt Olson. He's leading spring training with 7 home runs, and he's a 400 average this spring. He's just been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. And it's just comfort level with Matt Olson. Jeff Francoeur was saying on the broadcast yesterday that Matt Olson just looks more comfortable. Last year, big shoes to fill with Freddie leaving, and now he knows these guys, knows what the deal is with the Braves. He grew up here. He's more comfortable now, and I think with a second year, you'll see a huge Matt Olson year. Even though last year wasn't terrible, he still 30-plus homers and 100-plus RBIs, but the average wasn't necessarily where he or Braves fans probably would have wanted to be. But this year, I think we're in for a huge Matt Olson year.
Oh yeah. Look, man. I think now last year we had a pretty good year offensively.
Oh yeah, first in homers, second in runs scored in the National League
during the regular season, but come postseason time, I think we're going to elevate a whole lot.
I hope so. There were only three guys that showed up in the postseason offensively: Acuna, Travis d'Arnaud, and Matt Olson.
Yep, that's it.
In those 4 games against the Phillies. So it is definitely going to need to be better this season. And then the last thing we'll touch on is, unfortunately, Raisel Iglesias, who the Braves picked up last season at the end of the trade deadline, who is just unbelievable for us. Unhittable, pretty much. Less than a 1 ERA while pitching for us last season. He's going to have to start the year on the IL, unfortunately, with some shoulder, or is it elbow? I think it's low-grade shoulder inflammation.
I think so.
It doesn't look like it's too serious, but regardless, he's not going to be there for the first few games. AJ Minter's presumably going to close games now. I think. Would you agree with that, Ant?
Yeah. I mean, I think he can get it done because he's done bullpen work before. So.
Yeah, before AJ became like a really elite pitcher with us, he was closing a few years ago in the 2018-2019 season, and even in the rebuild. But now, with AJ cementing himself as one of the top relievers in baseball, he might have a separate mindset coming into that 9th inning now, better than what it was when Braves fans really didn't look forward to him coming into the 9th inning many years ago. But it's a different story now. World Series champion, been to the playoffs many times. It's a high-level situation pitcher, so I think this situation is going to treat him well. I think he's going to succeed in that role before Iglesias is there. But I can't really wait to watch Iglesias in that role full time, because we know how good Kenley was for us with the MLB leading, with him leading the MLB in saves. He's in Boston now, but I want to see. I can't wait to see Raisel Iglesias become the full-time closer for this team, because we know how elite he was last year. And I don't know if he can replicate that exact performance, and it's going to take a crazy season for him to do that through 162 games. But if it's anything close to that, it's way more than we got for him at the deadline, because he's just unbelievable what he did.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what he did last year, that was unheard of. I mean, we did not see that coming.
No,
but as long as he can, just stay steady this year. We don't need you to be a superstar. Don't be, it's all about me type player where, what I mean is don't try to put everything on your back. We don't need a mule. No. Just play your game and do what you know how to do. That's
why the bullpen. That's why those guys in the bullpen, you hear from them all the time. It's like a family down there. It's a group. Each guy, you leave it off to the next guy. They support you. So, yeah, never feel like you're doing it all. Never feel like, it's all on you, because that goes back to 2 years ago in the playoffs when Luke Jackson had that rough series against the Dodgers, and Tyler Matzek came in and just cleaned that up with 3 straight strikeouts, which is probably the loudest I've ever heard to his part on air. Right. That is a perfect example. Like, your teammates will have your back. So I hope Raisel Iglesias doesn't put too much pressure on himself to do what he did last season, because anything close to it will be more than enough to cement his elite status as a great reliever in this league and a great closer this year as well. Any final thoughts on the Braves before we wrap it up here?
Hey, I'm ready for the season to start, man.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait. We face the Nationals in the first series of the year. It's going to be Max Fried, no surprise there, and Patrick Corbin, the veteran lefty for the Nationals. So it should be a good game on opening night. But we should come out with a W. It's the Nationals opening series. So hopefully we get the win next week, and we'll be able to recap some Braves games soon on this show. So we're definitely looking forward to doing that as well in the future.
Finally.
Yeah, so it's almost April in the ATL when Atlanta United, Atlanta Braves, and the Atlanta Hawks play at the same time. So it's getting to be a fun time in the ATL if you're a sports fan. So get ready. But with that, we'll end it right there. We'll end the show like we always do. Tell them where they can find you, Ant. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I was about to say we'll end the show like we always do right here. Tell them where they can find you.
Y'all can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. All you gotta look up is Big Ant. That's all you gotta do.
And you can find me as always on Twitter at PinRizzle300 and streaming Georgia Sports Nation on Recap and Hawks Hoops on YouTube. But without further ado, that'll be the show right there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to tune in next week when we have the Braves really starting up, and we'll be able to recap the Hawks games from next week as well. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace out.